Hey everyone, Gill here, and it is time for a preview of the 2020 US Open men's semi-final matches. On the bottom half, we have Daniil Medvedev against Dominic Thiem. On the top half, it is Alexander Zverev against Pablo Carreno Busta. I came very close to declaring this Medvedev-Thiem match the de facto final. It's close. It's almost there. It's not quite there. It's not quite 2018 Wimbledon when you had Djokovic and Nadal in one of the semifinals and Kevin Anderson, John Isner in the other. It's not quite to that level, but it's approaching that level. Nonetheless, these are big matches. Big matches. Not quite big enough for me to be wearing this in a video, but I had some other matters to deal with, and I decided not to change because, these are big matches. So I want to start with the match. Quite frankly, I have a lot more to say about. I have more to say about Thiem Medvedev than I do Zverev Carreno Busta. So let me start with that match. First, I want to say both have handled the pressure so far brilliantly because Djokovic goes out on Sunday, and since then these guys play 4 matches between them, and they're all straight set victories. Thiem running through FAA and Alex de Minaur, and Medvedev running through Tiafoe and Andrei Rublev equally impressively. So both of these guys are just clearly head and shoulders above everyone else in their section, and they've been playing the kind of tennis where you almost flip-flop, and personally I haven't flip-flopped, but a lot of people are like, oh, I think Thiem's the favorite. Oh, I think Medvedev's the favorite. And just going back and forth based on watching their matches, that's how good they've looked. But it all comes down to this. They meet in what is probably going to be the match that produces the eventual champion. So what I do, as I do, I will tell you how I think Dominic Thiem can win the match. Then I will tell you how I think Daniil Medvedev will win the match or can win the match. And then I will tell you who I think will win the match. Both players have paths to victory. Very confident in saying that. There are both scenarios where each player wins. So let's start with Dominic Thiem. And the basis of Thiem's game at this point in time is essentially the fact that he has the most brutal attacking ground stroke game in all of men's tennis. And if he is timing his ground strokes, and Medvedev is someone who sometimes gives you a bit of rhythm, I think that Medvedev can at times disrupt some things, but for the most part, Medvedev will give you some rhythm. If Thiem really has his A-plus game from the back, I don't know that there's much that anyone can do. Seriously, I mean that. I mean, off both wings, the power is absolutely overwhelming. You can make him play defense, and he covers the court well, and he'll defend and create offense from defensive positions. He's returning well, and he's serving great. I mean, he's just got this rock solid all around game that when he's really at his very best, it's hard to imagine a player like Medvedev winning purely off of his defense, because sometimes Thiem gets in a zone where he can just hit forehand after forehand after forehand after forehand, and they are all tremendously heavy and well-placed offensive forehands, and there's only so much a man can defend. And on that note, you could almost make an argument that Thiem at his best actually has the advantage on both cross-court rallies. Forehand to forehand, offensively, Thiem is far and away the better forehand than Medvedev. Backhand to backhand, you're probably thinking, whoa, well, Medvedev definitely has the edge in that matchup, but Thiem can disrupt that backhand to backhand pattern with his slice backhand. He's hitting that shot really well. He knew he needed that shot to be better on faster courts. He's developed it. And what we're going to see Dominic Thiem do in this match is probably use the cross-court backhand slice quite a bit, and that'll set up a shot that is weak enough where he can either make himself a forehand or he can actually change direction and hit the backhand down the line. Again, that has to do with the incoming ball. So if Medvedev is able to really step in and hit his best cross-court backhand, Thiem really can't go down the line. So don't say, oh, well, why does he need his slice backhand to hit the backhand down the line? He needs the slice backhand if he wants to ultimately hit the backhand down the line, because the incoming ball from Medvedev is going to be weaker if he gives him the slice, because Medvedev can't do as much with that shot as he normally would. Medvedev loves he loves the pace. I think a couple of things that we'll probably see Thiem do. I think we'll see Thiem drag Medvedev off the court, especially with his kick serve out wide on the ad side. And we'll see, does he mix in serve and volley on that serve? Maybe he'll do that in a big moment. On the deuce side, it'll be a little bit more difficult because Thiem doesn't have the greatest slice serve in the world, but I still expect that he'll try to hit that angle and drag Medvedev way off the court. Daniil is extremely hard to ace with his deep return position and his 6'6" wingspan and his great reactions. It's really hard to ace him. So the best way to serve to him is just to pull him off the court. And Thiem probably has the serve to do that. So with all that being said, I also think that if Medvedev's movement is making it really difficult for Thiem to finish from the baseline, which it will, Thiem has, good volleys. He can come up and finish points at the net, just like a lot of players really have to do against Medvedev to finish the point, because the further back he gets, the tougher it is to really hit it through him, especially with the pace absorption and, just how well Medvedev defends. So, if Thiem needs to finish points at the net, he will, and he can. So between the slice backhand, kind of remedying the backhand to backhand cross-court rally, having the edge forehand to forehand, hitting through the Medvedev defenses if his timing is right, coming to the net, using that as an offensive weapon. There's really a lot of ways where Thiem can actually get the better of neutral baseline rallies against Medvedev. Serve return battle, I think he's returning really well. It'll be interesting because he just hasn't faced a serve as big as Medvedev. So how well is Thiem going to return? It's really hard to tell. I'm not quite sure. He returned well against Felix, but that's really all I can say. So serve return battle, I think it's likely that Medvedev actually gets the better of that, and I think he gets more cheap points off his first serve, and I actually think Medvedev has the potential to protect his second serve a little bit better than Dominic Thiem. Funny, even though Thiem probably has a better second serve than Medvedev, I think it comes down to the return, because Medvedev isn't bothered by the kick at all. Again, that comes down to Medvedev's height and how far back he returns from. And he really hits that return so deep in the court, and especially on the backhand, it's a piercing return that Medvedev is likely to hit off of Thiem's second serve. Then on the other hand, Thiem he likes to stand at the back fence and take a rip deep up the middle, but Medvedev handles that pace easily. I mean, that's just not a problem. You can't beat Medvedev like that. You just can't. You can hit it as hard as you want right at Medvedev. It's not going to do anything. He loves that. All right. So again, I think if Thiem plays his very, very best from the baseline, he's going to push Medvedev around a ton. He's probably going to wear him out. Daniil will probably get tired. Daniil will probably feel like he's going to have to do more offensively, and that's where you might get some errors out of Medvedev. So you won't get errors out of Medvedev unless you get Medvedev trying to force the issue, getting out of his comfort zone. Otherwise, he'll never miss. He just won't. So that would be Thiem's path to victory. He's got more firepower from the baseline. He can do more damage. He's more dangerous. So if neither player is going to miss, well, actually, Thiem has more then. Thiem has more offensively. Now let's get to Medvedev and his paths to victory. The thing is about Medvedev, we saw this with Rublev. Sometimes offense is not rewarded. Aggressive play is not rewarded against Medvedev. His pace absorption is so good. His counterattacking is so good that sometimes you take a rip, high-risk offensive shot, even if you make it, you just don't get rewarded for it. So a couple things that Medvedev will do to force errors. One, he makes you play extra balls. That in itself is extra chances for the opponent of Daniil Medvedev to make errors. Second, he covers the court so damn well. you're gonna try to make it even better, even more perfect. And a lot of errors will come out of that. So then it comes down to, okay, shot tolerance. And well, if it's going to be really hard to hit through the Medvedev defenses, what's the plan then? It's going to be really tough, I think, for Dominic Thiem, because Thiem is someone who really doesn't like to play passively or sit back, just like, kind of like Andrei Rublev did in the first set, and then he got away from the game plan and started getting smoked again in the second set. But an example of that is at 6-all in the first set tiebreak, Rublev-Medvedev. Rublev hits this incredible inside-out forehand, which should have put him ahead in the point, but Medvedev just hit a great counter-attacking down-the-line backhand, and from a defensive position, Medvedev wins the point outright on that ball. So basically, Medvedev's defense is going to make Thiem hit perfect ground strokes. The timing's going to be perfect. He's going to need to hit not 2, not 3, but 4. And if Thiem doesn't have great timing, if Thiem doesn't have his A+ game, the errors will come. He's going to overhit. He's going to make more mistakes. Now, let's say Thiem finds the rhythm on off the ground. Let's say he has great rhythm off his forehand and his backhand. What Medvedev will do is he'll toggle between play styles. So I think he'll come out and he'll try to D-up, wall up, and really try to make Thiem earn everything and see if Thiem is up to the task. And if Thiem is up to the task, Medvedev will adjust. Medvedev will start going down the line instead of cross court. And he will start attacking by moving up in the court, advancing his court position, and changing direction on a lot of balls. And he will go for more on his forehand if he needs to. He did it when Rublev kind of dared him to. So the way the Rublev match works is just a good example. That's why I keep going back to it. Rublev in the first set was like, look, I'm not going to hit the ball hard at you because I know you want me to hit the ball hard. So let me just be really consistent, shot tolerance. Let's play long rallies. I'm up for it. So Medvedev said, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm going to go after my forehand then. And he starts playing really aggressive, and Medvedev makes a bunch of unforced errors. I actually think the strategy was working from Rublev. I've never seen Thiem do that. I don't think Thiem's going to do that. I think Thiem's going to rip his forehand. That's really what, Should he? I don't know. I think maybe he shouldn't if he's not. I think if he's not playing his 100% A game, I think it would be good if he reeled it back a little bit and he played bigger margins. But I just don't really see him doing that. So for Medvedev, it's about plan A, plan B. Thiem wants to get him to plan B, where Medvedev is playing more aggressive and mixing in, going to the net, and taking the second serve on the rise. Thiem actually wants that because that's where Medvedev might make some mistakes. But until then, I think Medvedev is going to be trying to stay really consistent. And Thiem is a player that looks to finish the point, looking for a conclusion. And when Medvedev plays a player who is constantly looking for the conclusion, Medvedev is constantly looking for the extension and looking for the error. So it's not that Medvedev is a defensive player who can't play any offense. It's not what it is at all. It depends on who he's playing. And in this case, if Medvedev is going to play a player like Dominic Thiem, it's likely going to be a lot of defense from Medvedev, which he loves. He's totally fine with that. And I do think Medvedev has a chance to win the serve return battle. So we'll see how that plays out. All right. Conclusion. At the end of the day, I think a lot needs to go right for Dominic Thiem. First of all, I think if nerves start to play a factor, I'm a lot more worried about Thiem being the elder player, being the player who has already made 3 major finals, who's been on the scene for a long time now, who kind of feels like, okay, enough already. It's time for me to get one of these, and this is my chance. On the other hand, you have a player in Daniil Medvedev, and yes, he's younger, but yes, he wants to win, but I've never really seen him get tight. And he plays a higher margin. He plays that, defense doesn't really get as tight as offense. Offense gets tight. Defense doesn't really get as tight. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Medvedev shelling up. I think it's more about Thiem really trying to, perhaps overhit when he feels nervous. So let's say Thiem can't find the finishes. Now forget nerves. Let's say the Medvedev defense is getting the better of the Thiem offense, and Thiem's having a lot of trouble finding conclusions to the point. Medvedev has a plan B. I don't think Thiem really has a plan B. I don't think Thiem is willing to play with some bigger margins, to dig his heels in, and to suffer physically in the name of making less errors, to drag out rallies, to hang in tough with Medvedev and say, I know you're consistent, but so am I, and I can outlast you if I need to. I just don't know if Thiem will ever be willing to do that. That would be the plan B. And I know Medvedev has a plan B. I know that if Thiem is smacking winners past Medvedev, Medvedev will say, all right, I gotta step it up here. I'm gonna hit my forehand bigger. I'm gonna mix in serve volley if I need to. And look, if my second serve is getting shelled, I'll hit 115 miles per hour on the first serve. Medvedev toggles, he searches, he adjusts. Will Thiem do that? I'm not so sure. Now again, if Thiem's A+ game comes out here, I actually don't think there's anything Medvedev can do. I really think Thiem would win if Thiem plays his best. But is Thiem going to play his very best over the course of 5 sets in the biggest match of his life, the most pressure-filled match of his life, against a player in Daniil Medvedev who puts so much pressure on the opponent to come up with something magic? Is Thiem going to be able to come up with magic with the nerves that he will be facing? Again, Thiem will win his first major, in my opinion. Unless he gets some draw luck, Thiem will win his first major when I first see him. Maybe it'll be this match, but when I see him dig in and suffer in the name of mistake-free tennis. I know Medvedev will do that. And in the biggest moments, I'm just a lot more confident that the error will come off the strings of Dominic Thiem and not Medvedev. Another thing I want to mention is Medvedev physically. It was kind of strange because he had some shoulder issues and he was cramping in the legs a little bit at the end of the Rublev match, which is puzzling, and I'm not really sure what to make of it. But I do know that he will play through pain if he needs to, because he's done it. He did it all of last summer. I think he was banged up the entire summer, and he just kept winning. He just kept playing. So he's a tough guy. So I'm just going to really brush that off, but maybe that could play a factor in favor of Dominic Thiem. All right, so my pick is Medvedev in 5. 5 sets because I think it can go either way. That's how I predict. All right, the other semifinal, believe me, I have a lot less to say about it. I'm not really sure what PCB does better than Zverev. I'm not. Now, actually, let me take that back. Technically and tactically, I'm not sure what PCB does better than Zverev. Mentally, I'll give the edge to the Spaniard, and I'll get to that in a moment. But look, Zverev moves great. PCB moves great. They both defend very well. They're both very consistent. They both have high shot tolerance. They can play long rallies. Zverev has a little bit more juice on his backhand and his forehand, especially the forehand when he needs it. A little bit more juice. But PCB, a little bit more consistency on the forehand and the backhand. So the baseline game, it's like, okay, they'll play some good points. I could kind of see it going either way. It's a little bit neutral. But then you just throw in the Zverev first serve, the overwhelming weapon that it can be. And it really shifts things a lot in a matchup like this, in a matchup where you're like, is PCB better from the baseline? Maybe, maybe not. You know, that's where the first serve comes in, and it's like, okay, well, Zverev has that to really rest his laurels on and rely on when he needs it, and PCB he doesn't have that. So Zverev should win if he plays his best tennis. If he takes over with his serve and his forehand, he can do that. He's got more. He brings a little bit more to the table, a little bit more firepower, but then he can also defend and play consistently just like PCB. So the reason Pablo has a chance in this match is because Zverev came out in his quarterfinal match against Coric and played like a qualifier or a challenger. I don't even know, right? He looked overwhelmed and he looked like he wasn't up for the occasion, and he played atrocious, and, you know, mentally he wasn't there. I don't know how that happens in a quarterfinal. Coric looked incredibly nervous too. I don't know if that's a product of Djokovic not being around and them kind of feeling that pressure. The same pressure that Thiem and Medvedev have handled so well so far. But I don't know if that was it. It was a scratchy match, but what was the difference? It was Zverev's first serve. And I think that could happen again. If he doesn't hit his first serve at a high percentage and his second serve becomes a problem, completely neutralizes the advantage that Zverev has on serve. And then PCB has a chance. If Zverev plays extremely safe, which he did at times against Coric, PCB will make him pay with the forehand, but not to the extent that Denis Shapovalov would have made him pay. And if Shapo won his match, I do think I would have picked Shapo to make the final, because I really felt that whenever I feel in a big moment, Zverev will get passive, but PCB doesn't really have the offense to make Zverev pay for that. I actually think that Zverev's defense, PCB's offense isn't really good enough to hit through Zverev's defenses with any kind of ease, even if Zverev gets passive. So is Zverev getting passive going to be game over for him? Not really. I think he might be able to survive it to an extent. And then again, what won't be passive? The first serve. The Zverev first serve won't be passive. So I have Sasha coming through in 4 sets in the other semifinal. So Medvedev, Zverev, U.S. Open final. That's my prediction. I expect the Thiem Medvedev match to be wonderful. I expect it to be so great. And I can't wait to break it down. I think there will be ebbs and flows, as there are in any Medvedev match, and it'll be just fascinating to see if Thiem will really kind of right the wrongs, that fix what happened against Djokovic. Because, man, it's really the same matchup. I should have maybe said this earlier, but I mean, Thiem Medvedev and Thiem Djokovic are supremely similar matchups, in the respect that, you know, Thiem can throw as many punches as he wants, but it's kind of Medvedev and Djokovic saying, okay, well, can you throw all these punches and not miss? And if you can do that, fair play. And then perhaps maybe we'll force the issue if you can do that. But it's likely that you can't do that over the course of 5 sets, you know, consistently under pressure. So let's see what happens. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.